Welcome to Balanced Beauty Talks, the podcast where we redefine skin health through a holistic lens.
I'm Natasha, an esthetician and nutritional practitioner passionate about helping you nourish your skin from the inside out.
I'm Dr. Khadija, an esthetician and naturopathic doctor here to explore the natural pathways to radiant skin.
And I'm Alicia, an esthetician and skincare enthusiast. Together, we're diving deep into the world of aesthetics, merging modern treatments with internal wellness so you can achieve long-lasting results without compromising your health.
Whether you're a seasoned professional looking to elevate your practice or someone seeking effective solutions for conditions like acne, you're in the right place.
Join us as we share expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips that empower you to embrace a truly balanced approach to beauty.
So get cozy and prepare to transform the way you think about skincare.
Welcome to Balanced Beauty Talks.
Please note that the information provided in this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you heard on this podcast. Your health and well-being are important, and we encourage you to make informed decisions.
Welcome back to Balanced Beauty Talks. In today's episode, we're getting a little more vulnerable because skin isn't just a surface issue. It's a chronic condition, and the emotional toll it can take often runs far deeper than most people even realize. We're talking about the heavy emotional, mental feelings that come with these conditions. We're also talking about healing, not just with serums and treatments, but with self-compassion, nervous system support, and the power of being seen and understood. So whether you're a practitioner, a client, or someone in the thick of your own skin journey, we hope this conversation helps you feel a little less alone and a little more empowered. So this is a topic that I feel anyways that isn't spoken quite enough. I think there's a lot to take in when you're dealing with a skin condition, and it can affect people far more than those who don't have it even realize. And I think it's something that a lot of people who don't deal with, they're like, oh, it's just a pimple. Or it can go both ways. It can be really hard on you, or they can be the complete opposite where they're not really validating your emotions. And I feel like today's topic is just really important to talk about. So you're not alone if you're dealing with this. Many of us have been there as well, or still are. And I think we can maybe jump in by telling some of our personal stories. Okay, do you maybe want to start?
Sure. Yeah. For me, my journey with skin was always struggling with acne. And so I think we talked about it a bit in the first episode, just our journeys with skin concerns. But I had acne at different phases in my life, and I think it affected me mentally differently in those phases. I think when you're in your teens, it's always a struggle just because self-image is kind of developing at that time. And so when you tie in skin issues, it can complicate it. But there's also typically other people going through it at the same time as you. But I feel like at that age, we weren't really talking about it that much. The hardest thing for me was I felt like other people could see it. And then when there were recommendations, like people giving you unsolicited advice was kind of the hardest part. And it was often like friends of my parents or something would give my parents something to give to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess everybody can see this. And it's not just in my head. And then you get more self-conscious about it, or friends would give you things to try. And I'm always grateful for that. But at the same time, it just kind of continues that cycle of fixating on it. And then I think as I got older, because I got acne again in my 20s, and I was actually becoming a naturopathic doctor at that time. And my thought was, I'm going to be working with clients and I'm sitting very close to them and talking to them, and all they can see is my skin. So that used to really bother me too. And I couldn't, at that time, I had a lot of fungal acne on my forehead. And that is so difficult to cover. It just comes through everything. It's not like there's any redness in the skin that you can use makeup for. It just kind of pops right through. So I think self-esteem just kind of goes down. And I always was like, how am I supposed to help people if I'm also struggling with this? And like they're coming to me for these things and they can see it on my skin. So I don't know. I think I've always had anxiety. So it kind of tied into body image and just like skin in general. So it's been a lifelong journey of trying to find different tools that help me, working on my skin internally, working on my skin externally, working on my mental health, getting support with mental health, eating right. Like there's so many different aspects that have helped. But yeah, I guess my journey's kind of been all over the place. But I think with all of that, like with all the changes that you see in your skin, it just can get very isolating and confusing, and it can really take a toll on your mental health, especially if you don't have support.
I can totally relate to that. My personal experience started at an early age as well, and I've always been really hard on myself, really critical of myself, and kind of a perfectionist on both my appearance and the things that I do. If I wasn't really good at something, I just would back away and not do it. And so immediately, dealing with acne at a young age and seeing that the kids were noticing it and making small comments, whether to me or behind my back, was just really harmful in building my self-esteem in those younger years. And so, I was called pizza face and why aren't you washing your face and those little things. And because it started so early, like I didn't have the ability to I wasn't going to go on birth control at 9 years old and things like that, so you kind of had to roll with it until my parents were, able to help me a little bit more in terms of taking me to a doctor and whatnot. So those early years definitely kind of set the tone. And then through the waves of it getting better and then worse again, obviously my mental health kind of bounced around with it. And so where I really, really started to notice the effect it had on me in all aspects of my life was in one of my first relationships. And it just really affected my confidence with, that partnership. It really affected the way I put myself out in my career, like just in situations where I either became a natural leader or I wanted to be a leader. I couldn't work up the courage to stand up in front of everybody in a meeting just because I didn't want all the attention on me and my face. And we're lucky as women to have the ability to wear makeup without any form of judgment, but it doesn't cover it. It takes away the redness, but mine were so big and so deep that it was still there. And the moment we got into natural sun, oh my goodness, I never ever went to outdoor events for that reason. And so just how much it affected my social life, my love life, my career. And I didn't really connect the dots like that. Obviously I knew that the acne was really hard on me emotionally, but I didn't realize how much it affected my anxiety and depression until one day my partner at the time, he said, "Do you realize how you're an entirely different mood depending on your skin?" Wow. And I was like, "Oh, am I?" He's like, "Yeah, you're a completely different personality and you want to do completely different things." And I was like, "Oh, that's so true. I really need to make this a priority to figure out, how I'm going to clear this issue." And that's really when this whole, integrative skin therapy journey began. And so I started it with the nutrition school. And when I came out of it, I knew that I actually thought I was only going to do nutrition. I think I said this in the first episode, and not incorporate the aesthetic portion of it. So for the first 6 months, I was just doing an online business. And so it was just nutrition for skin. But while it was super helpful, again, I just felt like it wasn't quick enough or wasn't enough. So the integration of the two was the magic. But in that process, I actually conducted my own little tiny study that was kind of inspiring to do. The whole point to this study was just to understand what people were feeling. And it was an eye-opener because you feel so alone because people weren't talking about acne and the emotional toll it takes on you. And so I wanted to know what people were saying to themselves while they were dealing with it, and what giving them the freedom of acne relief or being able to properly manage it would make them feel. And so I interviewed 10 people, all between the ages of 18 and 37. Some were married, some were single, some were just really heavy in their career, some were full-time moms. So it was a nice variety of people. But I'll just share some of the quotes and words that they had shared with me. And some of these might resonate with you. Okay. So I don't feel good enough in my own skin. I feel worthless, makes me hate myself. I feel like I'm not living and enjoying certain parts of my life to its full potential. I feel unsexy. I feel depressed, disgusting, embarrassed, makes me antisocial. I'm embarrassed to go out in public. I feel gross, dirty, ugly, unattractive, bitter, frustrated, disgusting, sick, insecure, unlovable. So many harsh words. Yeah. And these are words that most people who aren't dealing with it wouldn't even think that these people are dealing with internally. And so the list goes on, and I won't continue on with those ones. But then I asked these same women how they'd feel if they found a solution to their acne. And they said, "I would accept and love myself. I would feel beautiful. When I'm clear, I feel better about myself, have more energy and confidence. I accomplish more in a day. I'm more social." One said, "One word, beautiful, ready to face the world, look them straight in the eye and assert my place in the world today. I'd feel so confident, happy, and more open to chatting with people. I'd feel liberated." And actually, I do want to go back up to one other quote. As one woman said that she had been with her husband for 12 years and had never allowed him to see her without makeup. So imagine that toll that takes on somebody. So it's such a gift that we as professionals are able to give them those feelings of, accepting and loving themselves. And it's too bad that it takes the clearing of acne to make one feel that way. But that's just, the emotional heaviness that comes with not just acne, but any inflammatory skin condition, because our face is like, it's the first thing that greets people. That's, your face forward always. And that's how you speak to people. That's how people get to know you. And it's with eye contact, and it's like hard to do when you have these types of conditions. So, and then another study that I found was that the psychosocial effects of emotional impairment to acne was equal to asthma, epilepsy, diabetes, and arthritis, which is so crazy because those are really debilitating diseases. And we always kind of dismissed superficial acne because it's not a life or death sentence, right? It's something that until the early 1900s, like, was never considered like worth medicine and worth caring for. And so, to see that kind of debilitating emotional effect is the same as those chronic diseases is pretty eye-opening. And then, just one more study that I had read, that those who are acne prone are more prone to anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, low assertiveness, embarrassment, social inhibition, shame, altered body image, psychosomatic symptoms like pain, and then obsessive compulsiveness, and even suicide. And that's so awful. So I'm glad that these studies are finally being conducted and there's some support and recognition around it. And it's, just so needed, obviously. Like, look at these words, right? So no one should have to feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, while there's been a lot of research and that can feel really validating for people to hear that and less alone, I think we've also had some regression when it comes to things like social media and just the beauty industry standards of filters and what that looks like when we're hopping online constantly and we're just seeing this feed of like glass skin and perfect skin and body confidence. And sometimes those same people that are preaching those things are heavily filtered, and that can really, that's taken us a few steps back too. So,
definitely skews the image.
Yeah, I think filters especially, I feel like people are kind of moving away from them a little bit, but I feel like I remember when filters started to be used, and when you're on the screen, when it kind of switches from you to a filter and then it goes back for a second, that like moment where you see your actual face and your skin, it just like, it does something to your brain. So I feel like especially if you have acne or any skin concern and you like catch it for a second, then you're just kind of fixated on wanting it to look like that filter. And so it's so easy to just like post yourself on social media looking a certain way because that's what you want to look like. And then you just end up in this awful loop. So I think filters are.
It just slowly creates a bit of dysmorphia because especially if you're a frequent poster, you're showing up with a filter all the time. You kind of rewatch those videos of yourself and then you go into the mirror and you're like, ugh.
Yeah. I have so many photos of myself around the time when I had acne on my forehead where I just like would take a photo and then like it's so normal for me to hold the camera in a way that it's just cutting off my forehead. Even now I'll still do it. I'm like, I don't like, I have to like tell myself to hold it properly because that was so common for me. So most of my photos are like cut there because that's just something you do when you see yourself all the time. You just want to not see it.
And then just as somebody dealing or who's had acne for so many years and dealt with all those comments from friends, even family. I had an extended family member take me out for dinner one time and tell me I should probably put on more makeup. And like that left such a scar in me. And so I'll admit, like, I have a hard time showing up my raw self on social media. And I like to think that I'll get there one day. And I think I have shown up a lot of my raw self in the last few years, more than ever before. Yeah, it's just like how I'm also one of those girlies who I'm probably going to have makeup on every day, like some form. And part of it is just now being a mom. It's the one thing that kind of makes me feel alive, but it has become a habit with dealing with acne my whole life. Like I just can't even imagine a day, even, and I'll even wake up and be like, oh, my skin looked good today. But just because it's routine, it's been routine for so many years, I go straight to my, well, I mean, it's not makeup, it's color science.
Right. It's the sunscreen.
But you know what I mean? Yeah.
That's actually like the difference in this, like Gen Z, I think, like what my own daughter has taught me is like, it's really not okay to make comments about people's skin or their bodies or their weight. Like we just keep that to ourselves. Like, that's not an okay thing to do. So even
nice
though
to
you
hear.
think you're coming from a really helpful place, like, she's always gonna check anybody who makes those comments. Like, it's a non-negotiable for her, which like feels really, it gives you like a sense of safety to be with somebody like that.
Yeah.
Who's gonna just like really embrace you and like, you know?
Yeah.
And
I
think
honestly, go ahead.
yeah, it's just a good rule of thumb
Mhm.
just to not make those comments. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that is honestly been a pet peeve my entire life. I feel like not just skin, but like being a very petite, tiny person, I feel
Mhm.
like people are always constantly making comments about it. And I know sometimes it's not coming from an awful place, but sometimes the comments are just so intense that it's just been a rule of mine never to comment on appearance, especially if you're like, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it. But in general, like, what appearance is nothing. It's a human body. It has absolutely nothing to do with who you are on the inside. So I
Yeah.
just don't feel like there is any space or any necessity to comment on someone's appearance,
I
whether
agree.
it's skin, whether it's body, whether it's whatever. If it's something you see in someone and you admire it, fine, say something, but you don't have to turn it into a negative comment. So for me, like, appearance is always off the table.
Yeah.
And to the contrary, too, back to social media, we're also dealing with more than ever trolling. You know, you have people leaving the harshest comments that they would never say in person, but they're hiding behind a screen and they're leaving the most harmful comments. So it's a scary place online because, like I said, like, I'm scared to show up raw because I don't want anybody, like how you said, you know, when you were in naturopathic medicine, you didn't want anybody to look at you and think, oh my gosh, she has acne. And like for me, I'm not really dealing with acne per se anymore, but I've always had some textural issues because of it. And like, that's something I'm still shy about. And I don't want trolls.
Yeah.
I don't want trolls to get into the progress that I have made in my mental health. And because it just takes one. It takes one really awful comment to just kind of set a spiral again.
Yeah.
So you just have to be careful. And it's like sad because we want to show up vulnerable for the people that are dealing with the same things. But you have to be mentally strong enough as well to deal with the trolls.
Yeah. Everyone has insecurities, and even the trolls that are saying those comments, like, it's coming from something, and like, it's hitting a chord in them too, but that's how they're coping with it. But it's hard to have like compassion for that when you're on the receiving end of it. But at the same time, every single person has an insecurity. And so if that's the part of you that can connect, if you feel like you need to say something, but like, just remember your own insecurities, and would you want those like pointed out, and just, you know, there's other things you can talk about other than appearance.
Yeah, they're on there usually primarily just to do that because that's their form of coping on whatever they're dealing.
Better,
and maybe it's not a skin insecurity that they're dealing with, but some other problem, right?
Yeah.
And so
A lot of projection happening there.
Exactly. So maybe now we can talk a little bit about like the stress skin loop and how stress can really impact the skin and create a bit of a vicious cycle.
Well, when we talk about stress, we're usually thinking about cortisol. Cortisol is your main stress hormone. Cortisol is actually a very important hormone because it's what keeps you alive and what wakes you up in the day. But it has a lot of downstream effects in it. And with the skin, it can increase the sebum or the oil production in your skin. And it also actually, in some cases, can affect your wound healing cascade. So you can get this increased oil production, you can get increased inflammation, and then you have trouble kind of healing wounds, or in terms of acne, like acne. And so, yeah, I guess it just has and then you can get stuck in that loop because cortisol can also affect your thyroid hormone. It can affect your estrogen. It can affect your progesterone. It can affect your testosterone levels. And so that goes up, that affects the same cycle over and over. You kind of get stuck in that loop.
So what are some ways that like you can control the cortisol levels?
It depends. There's the supplement side of things, there's diet, and there's also lifestyle habits. I guess on the supplement side, I like to work with adrenal support a lot with patients. Adrenal support is basically usually a combination of herbs that are talking to the adrenal gland, because the adrenal gland is what is pumping out your cortisol. And for some people, they're pumping out too much cortisol. For some people, they get to the burnout stage where they've pumped out so much and now there's not enough to kind of keep them going during the day. So adrenal support is kind of supporting your adrenals to regulate cortisol a little bit better, because you do need it to go up in the morning, and then it should kind of have this nice curve and go down. So there's herbs like within or ashwagandha, rhodiola, eleuthero, mushrooms. There's a lot of different herbs that can really just gently support the adrenal so it regulates better. It's not giving your body cortisol, but we're bringing it down. It's just kind of teaching it to regulate again. Right. I think also acknowledging the mind-skin connection, because the brain and the skin are actually developed from the same layer of tissue in the embryo. And so there is a very direct connection between the two. You have a lot of hormone receptors in your skin. You have a lot of nerve endings in your skin. You have a lot of immune cells in your skin. So there is constant direct communication with your brain. So when things are upregulated, it can affect your skin quite directly. And so it's just interesting to see that there is that connection from the womb. So
interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool.
So one of the reasons why we're talking about this is because it's really, truly part of the puzzle when we're treating holistically. You have to get your mind in the game, and it's so powerful and needs to be part of the process. And so how do you change the brain and the way that you think and the way that you talk to yourself? Because we have typically been self-sabotaging ourselves since we've been dealing with these conditions. That's just kind of what comes with it. And not for everybody, but a large majority of the population who are dealing with skin conditions are self-sabotaging themselves. And so I really like to incorporate mirror work, and you feel absolutely ridiculous when you first start it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know who Louise Hay is. Yeah, she's so great. And so a lot of those practices came from her. Just, yeah, standing in front of the mirror, she says, like, with dimmer lighting. And I mean, she was more like body image, less about skin specifically. So whatever it is that you want to, I guess, fixate on a little bit. I never did my whole body, but she would recommend like your body in the mirror. And for me, it was just my face. And you just have your hand on your heart and you say these certain words to yourself until it just becomes normal and repetition. And so, for example, like, I see you, I know it's been hard, you're safe now, I love you, even on hard skin days. Like, those messages really start to develop positive thinking pathways, which are an important part of the process. And it takes weeks, if not months, to do that before it becomes habitual and you naturally start to be kinder to yourself. You naturally start to have more positive thoughts about yourself. But you have to just be consistent. And it feels funny at first, but it truly is part of like that healing process and so important to do. So
yeah, I think we can get on like a loop and not even notice sometimes that we're having these thoughts. So that loop and the constant thought of like the negative loop about how our appearance looks, or the thoughts around like, oh, I have to go see this person, what are they going to think? I think the first step too is just acknowledging that you have that thought, not shaming yourself for having the thought, but also just thanking the thought for being there, and just kind of considering too, like, is this how you would talk to somebody else? Would you ever say this to somebody else, your daughter, your friends?
Right.
No. So treat yourself with that same compassion, and then just kind of alter the language, you know? If it's like, oh my God, look at my skin. Instead, you could say like, I trust my skin and its healing process, or I'm grateful for my skin protecting me and keeping me safe.
And like, even, sorry.
No,
and
go
even
ahead.
like, what is my skin telling me?
Of course. Yeah. Yep. I nurture my skin. I don't judge it. All of that language is just like, whether that's your skin or your body, it's just acknowledging that you're having that thought. It's on a loop. You're going to continue to have that thought. The more you acknowledge it and you change the patterning of that thought, the more that becomes the new thought too. So just acknowledgement is really the first step, just like anything, and just almost like laughing at it, like, okay, weirdo. Okay, girl, thanks for coming. How about this instead? And I think, like, if you can kind of almost like make fun of it, it loses its power. It's like hold on you in a way, and then, just thinking like, I would never say that to somebody else. I would never have that thought or use that language. Like, why would I say that to myself? That internal dialogue.
Another strategy around getting started, if you're really, really fixated on the acne and you're having a hard time getting positive about it, like, what else do you love about your body or your face? And fixate on that to start creating those thinking pathways. Like, for a while, I couldn't see past the acne. And, I started to focus on my eyes because I always got compliments on my eyes. And so I was like, okay, I really love my eyes. And, until you just start the pattern, and then it just gets easier and easier and better and better. So
I think another thing that I really would encourage is like creating, sort of when you're doing your skincare, creating a bit of a ritual around it. So instead of just feeling like when you're cleansing, you're like erasing things, or you're there to like, it's like when people say like, I feel the burn, it's working. It's like working against the body. I think just creating a little bit of a ritual, if that means that you dim the lights on your favorite music, like reframe the whole process, get some cute face cloths or burn a candle if that's what you want to do, but take time, do it with intention, and like really sit with your skin, and like, rather than punishing your skin, almost just feed it with love. an intention. I think that's important too. Like just reframing, just being so upset in like this bright light, which no one looks good in, and just, washing your face with just like disdain. I think just dim the lights if you need to. Put on your favorite music. Make it like a self-care ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That language I hear a lot with clients, like I'm just trying to scrub it off, and no, don't do it. You're working against it.
Yeah. That's where skin picking comes in too. It's like the fixation on like getting it off your skin. Yeah. And then that's really hard to stop.
Yeah. Another favorite one is affirmation. So similar to mirror talk, but sometimes, again, when you're having a hard time looking at yourself in the mirror, and other ways to go with affirmations where you don't have to typically look at yourself, but just start to instill those thoughts in you. Again, I had a really hard time with saying those kind of things to myself. So I listened to those affirmations. I would pull up YouTube and be like skin affirmations, and it would just be like repetitive, like you are beautiful, your skin is telling you something, like, it was just that messaging, hearing it. So I had every day I had those in my earphones. To just try to instill those pathways as well. So affirmations can be really wonderful.
Probably even before bed too, right? When you're kind of like falling into that like REM sleep, and like the brain is so pliable and can kind of affirm new messaging, either that or like binaural beats that maybe don't have language, but they're retraining the subconscious thought. I think that's good practice just for, absolutely, the mental side of it.
Yeah. I feel like for me, the morning is always like a really important time to kind of ground into the day. So meditation has always been difficult, I think, to like shut my brain off, especially if like you do have anxiety or you're like constantly thinking about things. But like putting on some music that's instrumental music or something like that's really like, if you want, or something soothing like that, and then just sitting with that for a bit, and even just trying to ground into yourself, or trying to imagine you anchored into the ground for the day. I feel like that can also help you kind of get out of your mind a little bit and more into your body.
Actually, I had a client the other day who was talking about how she speaks like love and affirmations into the water that she drinks, which is kind of cool. That. So I feel like if you're going to get up in the morning and have like lemon water or something, or a tea, you could probably speak some affirmations into that water and just like set the tone, and it will hold that vibration for you. Kind of cool. Yeah, she puts crystals in her water too. The germaphobe in me was like, I don't know if I want a crystal in water. I was like, I wonder if there's something you could put the crystal in. And she was like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then can you sanitize a crystal too much?
I don't know. I use crystal water for a lot of things. I don't drink it though. Yeah. I mean, there's probably something on the internet for
They have those water bottles that have the
that's true,
crystal in the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
So. I forgot about another thing to help instill the same thing. There's just different strategies for different people, or maybe all of them, but journaling.
Yeah. I love journaling.
Journaling is really great. You let those emotions out when you keep those emotions in. If you've ever read any of Gabor Mate's books, like holding in emotion and holding in words and desires and just not being true to yourself really can result into inflammatory conditions. And that's, it can be any disease, but specifically to skin as well can obviously be impacted. Those journaling prompts every day are really helpful in kind of setting the tone and releasing those emotions and those words.
I think too, just you feel like a loss of control and power with your skin sometimes when you wake up and you're like, oh my God, a new breakout, like here we go. And that can really set the tone for the day. So even journaling, not just emotional journaling, but also journaling like, how was your mood today? How was your digestion? How much did you sleep? How much water? It gives you a sense of control. It also helps you then go back into that journal and look for some patterning with your skin for possible triggers, and, whether that's food, mood, sleep, exercise, digestion, stress. So I think just having like a little list of things that you can kind of keep a daily journal, a skin journal, if you will, that helps you feel like you have a little bit more control and you're like moving the dial in the right direction versus like just along for the ride and completely surrendering to your skin. So, yeah.
And for those of you listening who are dealing with this or have clients who are dealing with this, I did write down some journaling prompts that might kind of help you get started. But what does my skin want me to hear? When did I first learn that clear skin equals worth? What would I say to a younger version of me looking in the mirror right now? And what beliefs about myself am I willing to release today?
Nice.
Yeah. I actually heard something today that I'm just going to throw in as well that was a bit insightful. So the impact on acne with teenagers, while we would assume would probably be worse just because of school, the stage of life, the kids and whatnot, because there's so many people like them also dealing with it. And like same with what you said about your daughter, I think that generation is a little kinder. But this research showed that adults dealing with acne are dealing with further emotional challenges because we are less common. And so you stand out in a crowd of 10 as having the one with acne versus teenagers kind of being more populated that way.
I mean, how many times do you guys hear in a week, like, I'm not a teenager anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know why my skin is doing this now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm too old for this.
Yeah. Or I thought I was done with it.
I was done with it. What's happening? This is crazy. I'm 35.
Yeah.
Look at the, like, why now?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's like a lot of stigma around that.
And that's like we're like right in the middle of career building too.
Yeah. Or, I mean, also on the other side of that is women going through menopause who have had clear skin their whole lives, and now they're, you know, going through menopause, and all of a sudden their skin is breaking out, and that's so new for them. So, yeah.
I think it's important that if you are someone struggling with any sort of skin concern and it's affecting your mental health, to seek out support, whether it's within your circle, but also professionally. I am such a big proponent of counseling and going to therapy, and really, whether it's skin or something else, because I think in a lot of cases, sometimes it's the mental health that comes first and the skin comes after. Because if you have an underlying mental health concern and that kind of like increases your stress and it causes you to break out, and then you get fixated on that and then you go back and forth with that, I think it's important to work with someone that can really dive into it with you and see what's underneath that. Because often there's belief patterns that you have about yourself that is driving a lot of whether it's anxiety or depression or even physical manifestations of mental health. So I think working through that with somebody is really important. And that's kind of a lifelong thing, but especially when you're struggling, to lean on someone who can give you tools that are very customized to you. And then also outside of that, you know, looking at nutritional support, naturopathic support, an esthetician, get a team around you who can kind of target all areas of skin, mentally, physically, emotionally. I think is really beneficial.
Yeah, and here's just a loving reminder. So your skin is not the problem, it's the messenger. Listen to it. Stress, emotions, and unmet needs can show up in your skin, and that's not failure. That's your body asking for care and not criticism. You are worthy of gentleness, patience, and love, no matter what your skin is going through. So just a gentle reminder there. I think this is a good time. We have some great questions actually on this topic for Ask an SD. So maybe we'll get straight into that.
So this week's Ask an SD is, how can I support my teenager who is struggling emotionally with acne? So teenager, partner, anybody really. How do you support someone in your life who's struggling?
I think like you just said, like having that whole team around your child or partner, like encouraging that is huge. The awareness around that need and not just going straight to proactive. And, you know, like there has to be a full team around that loved one of yours to support them in the full healing journey of acne and the long-term consequences that it has on their mental health as well. So,
and I think if you can just hold space for what they're going through, because they are dealing with it all day, every day, they're probably thinking about it a lot. And so if you can be that safe space for them to kind of vent or talk it through, or just like be in a very non-judgmental space, or even the space where that doesn't even come up, like they don't feel like they have to think about that when they are around you. I feel like that is just very helpful for someone who is struggling with something like that.
Just giving them a safe space to exist without feeling like it's a zoomed in lens on their skin.
And as a nutritional practitioner too, I used to always tell the moms who were bringing in their kids, like, don't obsess over, well, sorry, I tell this to anybody now, but especially the teenagers and their parents involved. Don't stress on what they can't have. Crowd out what they can't have with the good. And they don't need to be hyper aware of it. Just do your part in the home to like incorporate those healthy foods and to eliminate those triggering foods. And so don't obsess over it with conversation like, you can't have dairy, don't have dairy. Like, we don't want to say that. We don't want to create too much anxiety around it. They're already dealing with social issues. Now they can't go have ice cream with their friends as well. So like, you know, we don't want them to worry about eliminating those things, but educating them about the alternative options. Like now, thankfully, you can get dairy alternatives and whatnot. And yeah, just crowding out the bad with the good options and really playing your part in making sure that they're nutritionally supported and supplementally supported.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, you go.
I already said this, and so I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I feel like if it is your child that is dealing with this, when I was younger, there was a lot more stigma around therapy. I feel like it's changed now, but there's no shame in going to therapy when you are young. I didn't start till I was in my 20s, and I feel like I probably would have benefited from going a lot earlier. I felt like I remember conversations with my parents about it, and it was just this constant struggle of like, what are people going to think? From my end too, because I also had a stigma around it. So I feel like if I had that earlier, it would have been beneficial. So therapy is not bad. It's very, very helpful. The earlier you start, the better.
Yeah, that mental and emotional maturity and wellness.
And also be their affirming family as well. By that, I mean, really tell them they are beautiful.
Yeah.
They're handsome. They look great today. I don't know, just like
Cheer
the
them
little
on.
things that help instill confidence. And because again, I think back to that extended family member who said that makeup comment, and like I'm still here today talking about it because it was so hurtful and it really like made things tough for me, and that just always stuck, like, oh my goodness, she's ashamed to take me out for dinner. So that is really important. You have to be their cheerleaders.
Okay, well, thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share it with a friend who might need some encouragement on their skincare journey.
Bye.